What's up, everyone? It's a knife saw here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my first impressions on my newest knife. This is the Benchmade Mini Adamas. It's one of the new releases from Benchmade of 2021, and when I first saw it, it caught my eye, and so that is why I picked it up. Just the basic anatomy of this thing. It has a CPM crew wear blade, which is a new steel for Benchmade, contoured and chamfered G10 or black G10 handle scales. The pocket clip is a Parkerized, and it's the standard length Benchmade deep carry clip. And it is also left-handed friendly, which makes this knife fully ambidextrous. So I don't really buy that many Benchmades. I feel like I don't dislike Benchmades. It's just a lot of their things. I feel like you can usually get better prices or better bang for my buck in America at the price points that they charge. But this price, it seemed like a pretty good deal to me. Honestly, I don't remember it off the top of my head. I think it was in that 220, 215 range. I'm not entirely sure. But you guys, there'll be a link in the description down below. And I know if you are really interested in this knife, you're probably already looking up the specs and things on it like that. So one thing I want to talk about is just the looks of this knife. So this knife looks really, really good. Usually I don't care that much about the looks of my knife. I mean, I own tons of Spydercos that look all funky and weird with big holes in the blade. But man, this knife, it's just a good looking knife. I like this G10. It's got kind of like a grain to it. I think that it just looks a lot better than, your standard black G10 that just doesn't really have any look to it at all. I mean, it's got some cutouts here. The holes look kind of cool in my opinion. And also this blade, even though I'm not the biggest fan of coatings, this is a good looking coating. Coatings a lot of times just make a knife look cool. It makes the main colors pop, which is pretty much all black except for this blade and then the logoing on the blade. But I really like how it looks. I like the top swedge there. I like this fuller, even though it's not that functional, I think it still looks pretty cool. And I like how the Benchmade etching actually kind of pops a little bit on that dark coating. I just think that this is one of the coolest looking knives. That I just think it's a really good looking knife. And I know that some people could look at the same knife and say, wow, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. But that's just my opinion. I mean, you are the only one who can tell looks about a knife. But man, I do think this knife looks really good. Before I forget, let me throw up some size comparisons here. So first, with your Spydercos in this average size, there's the Para 3 on the top, and then the Sage 5 on the bottom. So just lining these up, there might be a little bit of a perspective issue because it's at my table that I'm recording on is at an angle, but the Mini Adamas is just probably like maybe a quarter of an inch bigger than the Sage, so very similar in size. I'll throw up a Benchmade comparison for you guys, the full-size Griptilian. So yeah, you see that perspective there. That's where it kind of throws it off a little bit. But yeah, the Griptilian is definitely bigger. And then one more, a knife that the Mini Adamas reminds me of in a lot of ways, the CRK Monzon. So yeah, I mean, they're not on the same level really in quality and preciseness, but there are some factors of this knife that kind of reminds me of it. So first, let's talk about this blade. Let's talk about the good and the bad. And there is one pretty big negative. If you've done your research and know a little bit about the Adamas, you probably know what I'm going to say. But yeah, let's go ahead and get that out of the way here. And that negative is the thickness behind the edge. So let's measure this really quick. So I am getting like 30 thousandths. I'm going to zero this out, turn it off, turn it back on just to try and get the most accurate measurement that I can. So we are looking at about 30 thousandths behind the, or no, there it goes. Okay, that's what I was measuring before when I first got this. About 28 thousandths behind the edge at the base, and then at the tip, this is where it gets really thick. We are looking at about 40 thousandths, close to that 40 thousandths mark at that tip. And I mean, this thing is just like a straight up wedge. I mean, look at this. That is coming in focus on my camera, and that is not a good thing. Your average Spyderco is 20 thousandths behind the edge. Your average, full flat ground Spidey, like a PM2, 20 thousandths behind the edge. And personally, I think that should be thinner behind the edge. And so when this is almost 30 thousandths at the thinnest part, and then getting up to that 40 thousandths mark towards the tip, I mean, I hate to break it to you, but this thing just is not going to cut anywhere close to a lot of the knives that I have. And I feel like for that reason, I'm probably not going to carry it that much. And I feel like, I mean, it's just not going to cut well. And it's one of those things that, as you watch the rest of this video, you'll find out that I really like this knife, except for the part that it doesn't cut. And I mean, that's the biggest negative that you can ever have with a knife. I mean, don't get me wrong, if this thing is sharp, it will open a box for you. But I'm probably going to pick most all of my other knives to open a box than this one, I mean, within reason. But it's just, I wish that this was thinner behind the edge. And the stock thickness, I believe it's about 140 thousandths, which is also the same as my unknowns on. So once again, another similarity. I don't even know what I'm saying. But my issue with this is just like a knife that doesn't cut very well is like a pen that doesn't write very well, a watch that doesn't tell time very well. It's just like this, the main function of a knife is to cut, so when it doesn't cut that well, I mean, it's a very, very large negative, probably, or I would say it's the, I guess the worst thing I could, I guess trash a knife, or not really trash it, but give as a negative to a knife is saying that it just won't cut very well, just because that's what knives do. And another bummer about this is this steel. Crewware, I really like, or no, I don't really like Crewware. I've never used it. I have used this a little bit, but I wanted to get this video in before I sharpen it because I'm going to talk about this factory edge. But Crewware is a steel that I have been eyeing like crazy. A bunch of the people I follow love Crewware. It's one of their favorites. I mean, I've been going on a good steel streak, getting a lot of steels that I really like XHP, S90V, Spy 27. I've been enjoying a lot of these more exotic steels recently. I felt like Crewware was going to be another one of them. But a thing with knives that are thick behind the edge is, for me, I feel like I need to keep them sharper, and sharper a lot more than a knife that is thin behind the edge. If I got like my Gale Bradley 2, I don't want to go through the whole process of getting it out, but that thing, it's practically like, it's so thin that I don't even need a sharp edge to use the thing. Something like a Swiss Army knife, this is so thin, it hardly needs to be sharpened just because it's gonna pass through materials. But I mean, this thing, 30 thousandths behind the edge with this stock thickness, it's just not going to cut very well, and you're going to almost want to keep it pretty much hair shaving sharp, at least at all times, in my opinion, or else it's going to be a little bit underwhelming for you. And in the little bit of cardboard cutting and a little bit of testing that I did, definitely not enough testing to give it a full review, but enough to do a first impressions on it. And it did bind on a lot of the cardboard that I cut. Basically, I don't know if that's the correct term, binding through cardboard, but that's where I just cut it and it almost just rips through it and doesn't slice it. So yeah, that is a little bit underwhelming, a little bit disappointing, and it's just like, I feel like if this knife was, even 20 thousandths behind the edge, I know I'm advocating for a knife to be 20 thousandths behind the edge. No, I mean, I would like it to be thinner, but still that'd be better than almost 30 thousandths. And I feel like for those reasons, I don't think I'll carry it that much, and I might end up selling it. In Crewware, I don't think I'm going to get the best example of the steel, just because it's so thick that I'm not going to want to use it and really put it through its paces and realize, okay, how long is it going to hold an edge? How good is it with like edge stability? I just don't know if I will want to carry a knife that doesn't cut that good. So yeah, those are my issues with the blade, which are very large issues. But for the blade shape, I really like it. Just a simple drop point. It does have a lot of belly to it. So if you are someone who does a lot of these, utility tasks where you need the tip of your knife, I actually do a lot with my primary knife, and so I would like the tip to be lower, but I still really like a simple drop point blade like this. And once again, it reminds me of the ones on here because just kind of that sweeping belly right there. And you don't have very good access to the tip, but it's still a very functional and a very nice drop point blade on both of these knives. But yeah, just one really huge issue with the blade. And coating, if you're wondering why I just don't like coated blades that much, one, Benchmade. I have seen Benchmade coatings. I know that they don't hold up the best. Here's my Reptilian. This coating is very, very messed up. Now, this was a hard use knife for me. I mean, it still is. I just don't use it as much anymore. But I mean, this coating, I did really abuse this knife, but like it wore off on the back right here just from rubbing against like a flashlight in my pocket, and the flashlight didn't even wear off. So yeah, the coating just Benchmade, they use all different kinds of coating. I know that. I don't really know exactly what kind of coating this is, but I don't want to see it wear off on me. I feel like that would be kind of annoying. And if this is going to be an absolute hard user for you, you know, maybe you want a coating just because, I mean, the character would look really good with a lot of years of use. But I just feel like crew wear, it is not technically a stainless steel, but I know it's not going to rust like K390 or M4 or something. So I think that they could have ran this with just like a satin or a stonewash finish, and I would have probably been more happy with it, just because coated blades aren't my favorite thing in the world. So fit and finish and lockup, fit and finish is great. I mean, I was really surprised by this. Perfect centering. I feel like I don't really have that good of knife luck, but on this one, I don't know if I got lucky or if all of them are like this. But yeah, perfect centering. Zero side-to-side blade play, and like look at this action. I guess I'm kind of spoiling the action, but yeah, especially for no blade play, that is really good. I don't really care about the action that much on my knives, but and sometimes I don't like my knives to be that drop shutty, because it can be kind of dangerous, you know, a big blade swinging down by your fingers. But I do like the axis lock because your fingers are out of the way. And so yeah, a very good job by Benchmade, and that kind of makes me happy because I mean, Benchmade's a company. You post some sort of Benchmade related post on a forum, and it's literally just like two main words: fit and finish and Omega Springs. I guess that's 4 words, but I mean, that's really all people complain about. So it's really good to see them nail the fit and finish on the knife, and I am happy with that. Let's next talk about the ergonomics. And man, the ergos on this knife are so good, and they just completely impressed me. The only issue that I could see you run into is maybe if you have really big hands, that could flare, or like that flare up there at the end, maybe your pinky is a little bit cramped, and so that's not the most comfortable. I could see that, but my hand size, I honestly don't know my hand size. It's, I guess, around a medium-sized glove. But I can fit all 4 fingers in there very nicely. I could probably fit an extra pinky on the end there. And it is a contoured handle. Let me show you from this side. It is a contoured handle and chamfered, and man, is this thing comfortable. It's so hand-filling. It's just, I feel like it almost feels like a fixed blade in my hand. I don't feel that pocket clip at all, which is great. I'm really impressed by these ergos. One complaint I guess I could have is the jimping. I mean, it's not very sharp, it's not that aggressive, but still, I mean, I think that if you were going to have jimping in one spot, just be this spot right here, honestly, for me, just on the blade, or have no jimping at all. I just don't think this is doing anything for you, this is doing anything for you, or this is, just because, I mean, look at the ergonomic lines on this knife. They are very good, and this jimping is not helping it be more secure in your hand. I mean, if this was not here, you got a hand guard up here and a guard back here if, you know, someone's trying to like rip it out of your hand or something. I don't know, but it's just, I hate to see such good ergonomic lines. I don't want to say wasted on jimping, because the jimping isn't that sharp for me and I really don't notice it that much, but it's just like, it's not necessary. And I mean, I know the Adamas is a tank and a hard use knife, and they're just kind of continuing it to the mini version. I don't know. I don't think it is all that necessary. But other than that, man, the ergonomics are great. And that jimping isn't really that big of an issue because I don't feel it that much. But it's got that flat back design that I like. Maybe it goes up a little bit. But what that does is basically that puts all the pressure of your cut and just to the it distributes it to the whole, I guess, surface of your hand. If it's a knife, you know, like the, I don't know, the PM2, The cut is gonna, if you hold it like here, the cut is kind of gonna find a spot maybe right here from this hump in the back and just kind of create a pressure point that becomes a little bit uncomfortable, but it's got a very good ergonomic design, and you know, it's got a flat back just like the Untitled. I'm gonna keep saying it, these knives are more similar to each other than you think. And another thing similar to the Untitled is this grip. This saber grip right here is very comfortable. If you have this mini Adamas, you should try this out. I don't do many cuts like this just because I don't find it that useful, because if I'm cutting through material and the material is coming up through my coming up on the blade like this, I mean, I'm only going to be able to use half of the blade, so I use a hammer grip for that. But this grip is very comfortable, and the Untitled, it's got this little harpoon right here, and that allows you to put your thumb in there. Very similar knives in ergonomics. I mean, obviously the lines are different when it comes to this. Actually, wait, hold up. Look at this. So don't pay attention to the lock bar on the Untitled. Look at that. These knives are more similar than you think. The Adamas looks like the same size, but I'm just holding it higher to the camera. That is really cool. I mean, I'm not trying to say anybody copied anybody, because they're both like, I would never even think Benchmade Adamas Untitled. It's like, what are you even talking about? I need more clarification. I would never think they are that similar, but yeah, it is really cool to see such a good knife. Actually, which came first? I don't really know. I assume it was the Untitled. I think that's been in production probably around 10 to 15 years. That'd be my estimate, but I'm not sure about the Adamas. So I really like both knives, so I'm not trying to say one copied the other, because they are very, very different looking, both very unique in their own ways. Next, let's touch on the carry, and I believe this knife is around 4.5 ounces. I think it was like 4.6 ounces, which is a weight that I'm completely fine with. In wearing jeans, which I usually wear, this works just fine. In the summer, I wouldn't say this is, you know, like an athletic shorts knife, but I think that you know going into it that this is going to be a little bit of a beefy knife, just how thick those handles are. But I really am a big fan of this pocket clip. I have no issues with it. It is deep carry if you want a deep carry clip, but there is still a little bit that sticks out on the end. I like that because it's a little bit to grab onto, and then you're good to go getting it out of your pocket. I just find that when it goes all the way up to the top, even though yes, it does conceal the knife more in your pocket, it gets a little bit difficult to grab it out. And I feel like you grab it out and then your hand is like right here. You're like, all right, let me do this thing where I scoot all the way up the blade. It's just not the most practical thing in the world. So yeah, I really like this clip. Very useful, simple. The G10 is smooth below it. I mean, there's not very much traction on this G10, and so it slides in and out very nicely with good retention on here. And I really like the Parkerized clip. Basically, it just kind of already scratched up from the factory. It's good for multiple reasons. One, I just don't like these black painted clips that they almost just start wearing pretty much as soon as it even touches your pocket, like Kershaw and ZT. You'll see them. They're pretty much just painted clips that they put on their knives, and I mean, they just rub off with anything. You can carry it for a week and it's already got like a trail of rub mark around the end of it. So I am a fan of this Parkerized clip, and I also think that it looks pretty cool with the butterfly logo in there. So onto the action of this knife. I already kind of mentioned it, but it is very good. It flicks out and drops shut. It doesn't drop shut as good as like my Griptilian, but one reason that I think that is because it actually has a pretty big pivot on this guy. It's a very thick stock and a big pivot, and so it makes sense that it doesn't drop shut as good, basically because imagine the path that this tip has to take. With a bigger pivot, it is taking more of a path like that, and with a smaller pivot, these are both exaggerated, but it's taking more of a path like, I guess I'd say like that, you know. And you know what else has a big pivot? The Untitled. Look at that, both pretty big pivots on there. And yeah, so this knife isn't gonna drop shut as good as maybe a Griptilian or a 940, but it still has a very good action. It's got that heavy blade to help it. I don't care that much about a drop shut action, like I already said, but it is good. The axis lock, you can shake it out off camera. Like, I guess you guys might not believe me, but yeah, I just opened it up like that off camera. I think the shake test is kind of silly. I don't really completely agree with it, but it definitely is a thing if you, I don't know, have ever ran into a situation where that's a problem for you. But the thumb studs are actually, I think these might be different than the ones Benchmade usually uses, but they don't really have any grip or texture to them. They're just kind of cone shaped. I mean, they work fine for a slow roll. They work fine for a flick. I actually really like an axis lock action because you aren't fighting a detent. You're just fighting the tension of the omega springs, and that actually makes slow rolling it really easily. Or really easy. If you have a knife with a detent, you know, you are breaking the detent, so it might be nice for like flicking it out like that, but when you go to slow roll it, it's almost like a hiccup or a stair step in the opening mechanism of it. But when you're just fighting the spring, it's literally super easy to slow roll like that and very nice. And I just like a good slow roller. It's simple, it's effective, and it's not gonna scare anyone if you pull it out of your pocket and just, or if you just slow roll it like that. So I like slow rolls. That's how I usually open my knives, and that's why I like the action on an axis lock. So I think that is going to do it for this video other than value. Let me touch on that really quick. So if I'm right and not just talking crazy, I think this is $215, $220 in that area, or maybe just around 200. I don't know. But, or maybe it's 180. Maybe I'm all wrong about this. I have no clue. I'll leave a link in the description, so hopefully you've already looked at that. But even if it is $220, I think that it is worth it if you know what you're buying before you get it. So I think it's worth it because it is one of the best Benchmates I've ever handled. The fit and finish, I can already tell, is better than my Griptilian, and it is very comfortable, carries good, and I pretty much really like everything about this knife except for the thickness behind the edge. Now, if it was 10 thousandths behind the edge, would it be my favorite knife in the world? No, but I would be like praising this knife, telling everyone go buy it immediately right now. And so I really like it. I do suggest it, but it's hard to, if you're looking, I can't suggest this as an everyday carry knife just because it's too thick behind the edge for someone and they're just not going to be able to get the use that they want out of it. If they are looking for a hard user, see, this is where it puts me in a weird situation because it's a mini knife. I mean, there's already the full-size Adamas, so I feel like that would be a little bit more capable of a hard use knife than this one because there's a good chance that you might want a longer blade to just have a little bit more reach or strength or something. And usually if you're hard using a knife, there's a good chance that you are wearing some sort of heavy duty or sturdy pants, not like you're wearing like sweatpants or anything. So I feel like this knife is kind of hard to suggest. I'm glad I bought it. I'm excited to carry it, sharpen it, and review it. But I don't know, it's just not my, I wish the blade cut. I mean, I guess that's a wild thing to ask for, but I guess that's my final conclusion. Still not decided on if it's worth it or not. I think it's a great knife. It's just so thick behind the edge. So I will get sharpening this. I will carry it for a couple weeks. Then I will do my review on it. But that's going to do it for the video. Thank you guys for watching this. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you are new. And I'll see you guys in the next one.